Well, I was born in a small hospital outside of Northeast Philly. Grew up in Fairless Hills, Pennsylvania, in a quiet suburban area. And one day I went to my cousin's pro wrestling show called FTW, which was actually bought out by TNA, and then they just ended it.
What?
Yeah.
That's random.
And ever since then, I fell in love, started watching WWE, Then I decided, hey, I can do this on my own, and I bought my own trampoline and started a federation called FHWF. Me and a couple friends jumped on a trampoline and just did moves. And then eventually
that sounds like wrestling to me.
I found BXW and fell in love.
Well, there you go. That's the end of our podcast, I guess. We got everything out of the way.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Global Backyard Wrestling Nation Podcast. The #1 backyard wrestling podcast on planet Earth. Simply because it is the only backyard wrestling podcast anywhere. I mean, seriously, I believe free access television in Alaska probably gets more viewers than us. But still, this week, a great week for backyard wrestling in the GBYWN. The big event from this weekend was in Connecticut, as the Connecticut Crew, at one point known as the IWC, the Iconic Wrestling Circuit. That federation has been defunct and has been replaced with 203 BYW, named after their YouTube channel of all things, showcasing all of the great wrestling action from Connecticut. This weekend's event hosted Marcus Santafonte versus Benjamin Right Back, and in the main event, Daniel Devine and The Russ. A great showcase between Connecticut wrestlers and out-of-staters, and that's something I kind of want to bring up at the beginning of this show, as the story of Connecticut can really be seen as a great success story that a lot of other federations can follow in. You see, Connecticut, for many years, really only wrestled each other. They had weekly shows, which, as you know, weekly shows are very hard to pull off, especially for out-of-staters trying to travel. And they had a very small roster, which you know means they wrestled each other many times. I'm talking 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rematches over not even that many years. And if you are one of those guys who has wrestled someone more times than the years you've been active, maybe you should listen to this story, because in Connecticut, these men got sick of each other. Absolutely sick of each other. They couldn't stand wrestling each other for the umpteenth time, in the umpteenth feud, the same exact storyline, same exact show, and it feels like you're going absolutely nowhere. And the thing about backyard wrestling is it's all about having fun with friends. The more the merrier, if you will. And these men turned it around. Rather than imploding on themselves or becoming nothing but a center of drama for all those involved, they cut all their ties for 1 month. They killed off the IWC, and in doing so, they took 1 month break and then came back. And not only did they come back, they came back with an entire new format, a new fed, a new style, everything. Everything was new and fresh, exactly what they needed. And now, as 203 BYW, they have just one monthly show. And so far, every single show they've had, since the relaunch last year, they have had new out-of-towners and out-of-staters every single show. a different out-of-stater, sometimes multiple out-of-staters for every single show, keeping at least one match fresh. If not multiple matches, if not the entire card. It gives that super show format that people just love to have. And we at BXW try to have that. We go out of our way to have one show a month and try to set it on the most convenient day, which for this year we're doing the second weekend of every single month. And for those who can show up, it just makes every single match that much fresh. Very rarely, honestly, do you see BXW versus BXW matches. And that is by design, because when those guys aren't able to show up, that's when you have the BXW versus BXW matches, and you can finally get that out of the way. So in the end, I kind of see this as a success story. And it's something I think a lot of other promotions that may feel like they're in a rut can really learn from. They gotta freshen themselves up. Don't think about the drama. Don't try to be set in your ways. Think about expanding your roster. Think about making things simple again. To be honest, that's when wrestling is at its most fun. When everything is simple. I mean, for the most part, we all started as kids, and how simple was backyard wrestling when you were just a kid with your friends in the backyard having a good time. And that's what it's all about. It's about recapturing that feeling, but on a grander scale with more people and bigger matches that are so more entertaining and something you can really be proud of at the end of the day. Say, hey, I had a good time at this wrestling show having this match, hanging out with all these people from all across the region, if not the country and the world, online. So I hope somebody out there, whether it be a booker or somebody on the wrestling roster, kind of listens to this now and thinks, maybe I should travel to some show, or maybe I should book that extra guy from out of town. Because I guarantee you, whether it's you going there or them coming to you, it will make our backyard wrestling circuit that much more fresh and that much more fun for everyone involved. Now, I do have some more to say on that subject, but I will be getting to that in today's rant. But for now, let's talk backyard wrestling results. This is the GBYWN Event Result Recap. Alrighty then. As always, I am susceptible to mistakes. I can mess up a name, I can mess up a date, I can even mess up the name of a show. Actually, I have never done that before, but it's possible. I can mess up anything on this recap. They have a name for this mistake-filled problem of mine. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my... Oh, it's called being human. And I am human. I am only human. No machine parts in me. Sorry to say. Could be cool. Bionic rad. But it's not gonna happen. So, if you see any errors from this recap, whether it be a name or a date or a location or the show name or what have you, please contact me. Let me know so I can correct it in a future episode and make things right for you, the listeners who enjoy listening to this podcast and getting these results and hearing about all the big matches from around the globe in the GBYWN circuit. So here we go. First off, a little blast from the past that we missed last month. January 19th, 2014 in New Jersey. Hosted UWC Metamorphosis. A number one contenders match saw Herman Cox wrestle War and Peace to a no contest. Tag team action as the Brotherhood, Ryan Ragnarok and Jimmy Spino defeated Lee and Trouble. And in your main event of the evening, the UWC Championship Tournament Finals saw Killer K defeat Saint Vengeance. The final stage of the UWC relaunch has been completed. We have our new first inaugural, for this era at least, UWC champion in Killer K. I love me some Killer K, and I'm enjoying the UWC, this being their first real go-home show. Some great stuff. I mean, we even had a tag team feud with Lee and Trouble versus the Brotherhood. Killer K winning the title, and there will be an inevitable rematch, so let's see what happens in the future for the UWC. Gotta love it. February 9th, 2014 in New Jersey, hosted UWC TBD. A number one contenders match saw Joshua Wesker defeat Big Sexy Venom and Herman Cox. Non-title action as the UWC champion, Killer K, defeated Trouble. And in your main event of the evening, Saint Vengeance defeated Jimmy Spino by way of disqualification. Oh, the storylines continue. Joshua Wesker inching his way into the number one contenders scene, winning that number one contenders match, and Killer K and Trouble going at it. The Killer K Saint Vengeance feud continues, and just as much Vengeance taking on Spino. I love where a UWC is going. It's simple, yet so effective. February 13th, 2014 in the United Kingdom, hosted RCWA Underground, episode 93. In the opening contest, Ash Draven defeated Dick Manwich. Tag team action saw Steve Farrell and Jake Ryan defeat Rise Wood and Johnny White. And in your main event of the evening, LVG defeated Nero. RCWA continuing with its 93rd episode of Underground. 93 people! If you are not following Underground, you are missing out on the best United Kingdom backyard wrestling maybe ever? I know it's in a long time. That BYW Link era stuff was great, but this is definitely the best of our generation. The storylines are fun, the matches are fun. This entire show is worth watching, and if you are worried about the length of these shows, don't worry. These shows are entertaining and they will pass you by so quickly. This is as close to a TV show as backyard wrestling gets. So please check out RCWA. Episode 93, people, come on! February 16th, 2014 in New Jersey, hosted Killer K, featuring UWC. In the opening contest, Joshua Wesker defeated Warren Pace by disqualification due to Herman Cox's interference. One-on-one as Saint Vengeance defeated Herman Cox. A handicap match saw Elder Foreman and Jimmy Spino defeat Lee. And in your main event of the evening, Big Sexy Venom defeated the UWC champion, Killer K. The UWC clearly starting phase 2 of their federation with Killer K as champion and now, believe it or not, a heel Elder Foreman. That alone is worth watching this video. A heel Elder Foreman, people. I cannot say that enough. Watch Killa K featuring UWC. Do it now! February 20th, 2014 in the United Kingdom. Hosted RCWA Underground, episode 94. In the opening contest, Dan Van Vertigo defeated Rise Wood. Tag team action saw Andy Andrews and Omega Bill defeat Mason Ryan and Nero. And in your main event of the evening, the GBYWN World Champion Sam Jude and Brian Killjoy defeated Ark Howlett in a handicap match. Episode 94 showcasing our GBYWN Champion of the World, Sam Jude, as well as a lot of great talented performers. Dan Van Vertigo himself has wrestled for I Sucks Dicks, so think about that for a second. GBYWN Global, truly international in all ways in backyard wrestling. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for your interview. The true reason you watch this show. Oh, I know, it is the true reason you are listening, folks. We had our Mike Damage trilogy, and what a great trilogy it was. Now it is time for our new trilogy, and if you don't know who it is, I am not going to spoil it because I have a nice little intro for this man coming up right now. Please enjoy part 1, chapter 1, stage 1 of this 3-part interview. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, backyard wrestling is about one thing and one thing only, and that is about fun. It's about having fun. Whether it be in a serious manner, whether it be with friends, whether it be the traveling, the hangouts after the show, the hangouts during the show, it doesn't matter. Backyard wrestling, in its core, is about having fun. And a lot of people think about having fun. They think about the parties after the shows. They think about the road trips and going wild on the road. They don't really think about having fun in the ring. And that is something I think is missing from a lot of people's perspectives, but not from this man. To me, this man embodies the fun of backyard wrestling. Inside the ring, outside the ring. In his persona, in his real life persona. This man is the fun of backyard wrestling, and you see it every time you hear him as a cameraman for BXW, every time you see him in the ring, every time he talks. You hear that he is having a blast, and he wants everyone else around him to have a blast, and because he is having so much fun, I believe he brings every single room he steps in up to that fun level. And that enthusiasm is contagious, my friends. This man brings that fun more than maybe anybody else in the entire GBYWN. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to have some fun here today with my friend, the former BXW Mid-Atlantic Champion and the current reigning and defending BXW Champion. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Johnnyboy. Say hi, Johnnyboy.
What's going on, guys?
That sounds about right. There's about a couple people watch this thing, so guys, that's about right. All right, so let's get started here. Because I actually, honestly, I don't know a lot about your past, so I'm actually interested to know some of this stuff because I don't know it. Let's start with where you were born.
Well, I was born in a small hospital outside of Northeast Philly. Grew up in Fairless Hills, Pennsylvania, in a quiet suburban area, and one day I went to my cousin's pro wrestling show called FTW, which was actually bought out by TNA, and then they just ended it.
What?
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
random.
And ever since then, I fell in love, started watching WWE, Then I decided, hey, I can do this on my own, and I bought my own trampoline and started a federation called FHWF. Me and a couple friends jumped on a trampoline and just did moves. And then eventually
That sounds like wrestling to me.
I found BXW and fell in love.
Well, there you go. That's the end of our podcast, I guess. We got everything out of the way. Nah, I'm just kidding. So you live in Pennsylvania your whole life then?
Yeah. Actually, I lived in New Jersey for a couple months, and then I moved into PA, but I don't remember that. I was an infant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See, I was the same way. I was born in California, but I don't remember any of it because
Right.
I lived there until I was 3. And then I moved to Pahrump, Nevada. Do you know where Pahrump, Nevada is?
No idea.
I'm glad you don't. Because it is literally in the middle of nowhere.
Deserts and snakes.
At the time, which was like the early 90s, they had one road in the entire town. They had one road, one stop sign, one light.
Oh, shit.
Like it was weird.
Yeah, that.
I only know this because like my family mentioned it to me, but I went back in like '97 or something, way later, and then they were like, "Oh look, there's a Walmart. That's amazing," and I'm like, "What? It's amazing." They're like, "Yeah, we had to drive like an hour out of town to go get groceries every week." I'm like, "Are you serious?" Yeah, that's a real thing. So.
Yeah, I grew up with a grocery store right down the street, so we used to walk there all the time. We were like 8 years old, just got done bouncing on the trampoline. We would walk to the grocery store and grab some food and stuff, so
It's
good times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun fact, as far as I know, I could be totally wrong, but this is my belief from people that told me. I lived across the street from the second ever Walmart Supercenter.
Oh, wow.
Second ever. And I genuinely don't know if that's true or not, but it was definitely the first one I ever saw. And this was like 97 or something, 98.
Damn.
So it definitely was around that time when they were building them. But yeah, that was the first one, or second one ever. So I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe someone can look it up. But
That's pretty crazy.
yeah. But yeah, alright, so lived in Pennsylvania most of your life. Do you remember early wrestling? Like watching on TV? Were you into that kind of thing? No? Yes?
Well, actually, my cousin was really into it, and I always would try to watch it with him, but my parents wouldn't let me. They were like, it's too violent for you. You're not allowed to watch this kind of stuff. So I didn't really actually get to start watching wrestling until I was about 14 years old. By that time, it was already, WWE and stuff like that. But I started watching right around the time when, like, DX was making their return. So that was pretty awesome, like, right when Shawn Michaels was coming back. And I would go back and watch older stuff, and, Shawn Michaels was my favorite wrestler all my life. Well, not really, since I was 14, so I can't say all of my life, but all of my wrestling
retroactively.
life. I consider myself as a wrestler born at age 14.
You're just doing super kicks as a kid, not knowing why.
I had no idea. It just came to me.
Nice. All right. So wow. So you didn't really see any of the Attitude Era. Or anything.
Not like firsthand, but I've gotten to watch a lot of it. But
man, I feel so old now.
Yeah,
I really do.
Well, I mean, I would have, but like I said, my parents sucked and were like, "Hey, you're not allowed to watch this."
See, my family was weird, and I couldn't watch WWF. I could watch WCW, but not WWF.
Really?
Yeah.
Why's that?
I think it's just their experience of what they knew. Because my dad and my grandfather watched old NWA and like that's why I am the way I am with old school wrestling. Because like the first match I ever remember is Sting and Ric Flair from a show in the '80s called Clash of Champions, and I remember watching it. I was like 5.
Huh.
In Pahrump, of course, because
That's
there's
awesome.
nothing else going on in Pahrump and watch wrestling. But yeah, so I would watch those old shows. But then like. I would try to watch like Attitude Era or something, and they were like, no, they're flipping people off, and there's women half naked and stuff. No, just sit here and watch Goldberg kill people. And I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like I missed out too much. So I secretly, I don't think they know this. No, it's a huge secret. On the weekends, they had like Shotgun Saturday Night. I would actually stay up till like midnight to watch the recap shows on the Attitude Era, and then I'd watch WCW during the week. So I had to kind of hide it for a while.
Yeah, I definitely did try to sneak a few shows before I turned 14, but I mean, once I got to that age, I was like, yeah, whatever, I'm just gonna watch it anyway. I got a TV in my room at age 14, so they weren't able to monitor what I did and didn't watch. I would put it on and they'd say, hey, turn this off, go up to bed. So
nice. That's really how you get away with it at the end, huh?
Yeah.
You get your own TV and suddenly you can watch whatever you want.
Yep.
Nice.
Once I got that trampoline, my parents saw me doing all these wrestling moves. They were not too happy, but they let it happen until my one buddy Andrew lacerated his spleen.
What?
Yeah, it was.
I didn't know about this.
It was my buddy Brandon. His wrestling name was B. Randon, and his signature was actually the frog splash, which is funny because now that's one of my finishers.
Nice.
And Andrew was being a bitch. He was like, "Oh, suplex. Nah, I don't want to do it." He didn't want to do anything. So my buddy B. Randon punched him in the gut or something, kicked him in the balls, and then did a frog splash, but put his knees out. And it went right into his side, and that kid, man, he was in pain. But we didn't think anything of it. We're, 14, 15 years old. We're just throwing shit at him, like, little bitch crying on the ground. And then my mom comes out, and she's like, yeah, stop messing with him. And then she took him inside, called his dad, and took him to the hospital. Turns out he was bleeding internally, and they said he would have died had he ridden his bike home like he planned.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy stuff. Kid got catheterized, all this crazy shit happened to him, but he lived, and I was not really allowed to wrestle after that, but we ended up carrying my trampoline out of my backyard and across a highway over to my friend's house. So
I'm trying to imagine.
Picture 5 15-year-old kids just carrying a trampoline over their head, walking in the middle of the street. We had to let cars drive underneath the trampoline.
No way.
Yeah, it was crazy. One of my teachers actually drove by too and stopped us. We're like, what the hell are you kids doing? We're like, hey, we'll see you tomorrow in class. And she just drove off. But we ended up carrying it to my friend's house, and we wrestled there while his parents weren't home. They came home to a trampoline in their backyard, and they just instantly knew, and we're like, what the hell is this shit? Get this out of our yard. So we ended up having to carry it again back across the highway into another kid's yard who would take it. So after that whole spleen incident, we stopped for a good 7-8 months, and then we moved the trampoline around a couple places, and eventually it found its home at this kid Big Drew's house. And his name was Big Drew, so we ended up breaking the trampoline, and there goes FHWF.
Wow.
So, and then
that trampoline wrestling's dangerous, isn't it? Jeez.
Thankfully I found BXW, and been able to call this place home ever since. Same along with ETTW. I wrestled there a lot.
Is Matt still running shows? I thought he was.
Every now and then, just for fun, we'll go over.
Because I know I went to one last year, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely fun wrestling with Matt.
Yeah. I feel like I saw you wrestling on a base at one point with Justin.
Oh, alright, yeah, then we did have a point in time where we made a makeshift base that didn't really work because I tried to design it to be portable, but it ended up, what happening was all of the carpet padding, when it would rain, we wrapped pieces of wood with carpet padding and then stapled the bottom of it so it was like a Christmas present full of padding.
Okay.
And we would leave it in this retention basin, right? So it's completely public property. We would hide it, but it ended up getting so soaked that the thing weighed at least 200 and something pounds. And we had 3 of them, and between me and Justin, we had nobody else who showed up, and it literally at some point in time was just us 2 moving this 220-pound base just to wrestle on it, and we were exhausted by the time we even got the base set up. And that didn't go too well. It didn't last very long, and not one of my favorite times in wrestling, but it was a time.
I do remember seeing footage of that.
Yeah.
Wondering who the heck are these guys.
Yeah, it's definitely. I was also working at a car dealership at the time, and
what year are we talking about? I just want to get like a feel for
this
where
is like
we are.
2008, 2009 right now.
Okay.
So I'm working at a car dealership, and I knew about BXW and I wanted to go, but I literally had to work every Saturday, and I know I was able to come to a night. I was able to come to a night show and wrestle Chris Blaze, which was a lot of fun. But other than that, I only really went to one day show because I just took off. I called out sick and said, "Screw it, I'm going to this wrestling show." And so yeah, that whole time, that whole 2-year span, I only really went to about 2 BXW shows, and that's when you guys still had the red carpet base. Yeah. So missed out on that whole era, but I was able to come around right when you guys got the ring. I had switched to working at Sesame Place, which was very flexible, and I would work, sometimes I would work Saturdays, but I got off by 11, so I would still be able to make it. I would leave right from work and still show up in my work uniform, but I was there and happy, so good times. This is about 2010 now we're talking.
Okay. Well, let me rewind a little bit, because you're talking about Justin. How did you know Justin? Where'd you meet Justin Henry and all that?
Well, he actually came right around when FHWF was starting to die out, when we were moving the trampoline from place to place. And
okay, so you didn't know him before wrestling?
Yeah, I knew him. I met him in high school. I actually met him at high school football. We were playing football together, and I had told him, this isn't my favorite thing. I definitely like wrestling a lot better. And he was like, "Oh, me too." And he told me how he wrestled with his friends on a trampoline before, and I told him about FHWF, and he said, "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard."
Except the part where people are dying in the middle of your trampoline.
And then, I told him, my buddy Andrew almost died, and he's just like, "You guys are idiots." And he showed up and was just like, "Alright, this is the coolest thing ever." And it turned out being me and him were the 2 ringleaders of FHWF. Everybody else ended up quitting or, doing drugs, dropping out of school.
Really?
Yeah. But most of them are actually fine now. One's trying to be Randon, the dude that broke the kid spleen, is now trying to be a rapper. My other friend's now in, Maryland. Other friend is a druggie. And Larkins just kind of doesn't wrestle because he doesn't want to break his spleen again.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Like, it surprises me that Urban still wrestles with a broken back, like, from a couple years ago.
That's crazy. How did he break his back? I don't know if you...
he's told me the story. I'm going to feel like an idiot for not remembering now. It's somewhere he just landed on something really bad. I think it was like he was ground wrestling or something, because they didn't have a base back then. This is like...
That'll do it.
Yeah, and I don't know if he landed on the ground or he landed on like... Because they wrestle on like the top of sheds and things like that. Like crazy stuff.
Oh, man.
And so somewhere he nailed his back, screwed it up. But he was back like within the year. Maybe like almost 1 full year, and then he was back.
That's
so
crazy.
I'd probably screw the whole story up.
That's
but
dedication.
But that was years ago. Yeah. That's the crazy part. And now he's like, you wouldn't know.
Yeah, no.
You really
Chris
wouldn't
is
know.
Definitely he's a pretty able wrestler.
That's what surprises me. You'll see some injuries like Mike has to wear a knee brace at times and stuff, where they just lag on and on forever.
Right.
And then something where Chris, where you'd be like, the man was almost paralyzed, and now he's just fine. like he's probably, I'm sure he has pain and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, like you couldn't tell.
Right.
From him just walking around.
Definitely.
It's crazy how different the injuries can be.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky. I've never broken a bone. I don't know about yourself.
Yeah, me neither. I was gonna say I've had my aches, but I've never actually broken a bone wrestling where I was like, oh, this thing's broken. I actually did think I almost broke my ankle once. I took a back body drop from Justin Henry off the base and kind of landed on my ankle in a funny way, and I thought that was broken, but it was fine 2 days later. I just laid in bed and did a lot of nothing, and then got up and walked, and it was fine. So
nice.
Thank the Lord. Actually, I would say the worst injury I had was one time after wrestling, this was way back when I was probably like 15, 16. We had a random match, and B-Rand, I was wrestling him for the title, and he had won, and at the end he held the title up against my lifeless body and didn't tell me that he was gonna hit me with it. He just kind of hit me in the face with the belt in the corner, cut my nose, like the corner of my nose, so much that I could have peeled up the skin and picked my nose from the side.
Oh.
It was completely detached, and I literally just kind of slid it in place and told my grandma that I heard it playing football, and it wasn't nearly as bad as I made it look. Well, no, it was worse than I made it look, but it didn't look nearly as bad as it actually was. I was bleeding for about 4 hours. Should have gone and got stitches, but didn't. And now I have the scar on the side of my nose. There.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
So.
I did not know that. Damn.
That's the worst injury I've had. Wrestling.
Yeah, I've never gotten stitches. Probably a dumb decision, but.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you remember last year at PKM, I got kicked into the pole.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That didn't stop bleeding for almost 3 or 4 days. Like by day 3 I would get up and there'd be blood on my pillow still and stuff like that. I'm like, jeez, it's not gonna end.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely should have got stitches, but hey, we're tough. We don't need stitches.
We're too tough for that. Alright, let me throw this out there. When did you, if you happen to remember, when did you discover that there is a bunch of people going out there breaking their faces open in backyard wrestling?
Oh, I definitely knew about it shortly after I started on the trampoline. I know, actually, one of the first other feds that I had watched was IYHWA, of course, Australia wrestling. Everybody's watched those as kids, and they were my favorite. And then Danny Danger, I watched his fed a lot, and he actually contacted my one ex co-wrestler B-Rand and wanted to do he called it the Danger Tour, and he was going around to all the feds on the East Coast, and he wanted to come to FHWF. It never ended up happening, but that's when I realized there's a world bigger than just us on the trampoline.
Mm-hmm. No, it's fine, King. You can say hi, King. It's fine.
Hi, King.
Well played.
What's up, King?
Yeah, we're filming for the podcast right now, King.
Oh.
Just doing some interviews and stuff. I want to get one with you eventually,
Yeah, what?
You're just talking about your career and stuff, what you like about wrestling and, stuff like that.
I like fucking elbowing.
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah, King. Hell yeah.
I know we're having a blast, but we're going to have to cut it off right there. Part 1 of the 3-part Johnnyboy trilogy. But that gives us a little bit of time to talk about something, well, maybe something only a Mark would complain about. Alright, I'm gonna try and keep my wits about me here. Alright, trying to keep my wits. But here's the thing, there is a running theme to this show you might not have realized yet, and that is the idea of unity between out-of-state wrestlers in the GBYWN. We talked about earlier with Connecticut and how they have expanded their roster to fit out-of-staters on a constant basis, and how good that is. But what I want to talk about is the other side of that coin, where people are not inviting out-of-staters, where they're staying in their own little cliques and their own little feds, their own little groups, and it's them versus the world. And I'm not gonna name names because I think we all do this to some extent. I believe at one time or another, we have all said, well, I'm a part of this group, and they're a part of that group, and I want us to be better than them. And that is the absolute dumbest thing to have in backyard wrestling. We are having fun here. This is a circuit of people having fun and hanging out. Who says, oh, my group is gonna hang out better than your group? That doesn't make any sense. Have fun together. If you don't like somebody, then don't like them. But have a reason outside of, oh, they're with that group and we're with this group. Are we in high school, people? No, we're not in high school. Well, okay, actually some of us are in high school. But we're supposed to be better than that. We are in a hobby where we are supposed to understand psychology and storytelling in wrestling. And yet we are acting like children who don't know anything about the mindsets of others. If you are trying to build a match around a story, if you're trying to tell a story to the audience of good versus evil, of an underdog against a huge opponent, of a big man, small man, champion, challenger, can we not understand the concept of let's all be friends? So think about this, people. And I have done my idle best to make sure BXW is not like that in any way, shape, or form. I personally like to think that we are the catalyst as far as the epicenter of GBYWN, where anybody can wrestle anybody. It is not BXW versus the world. It is not BXW versus BXW. It is the one place where you can see a New Era guy wrestle a BYW 203 guy. It's the one place ever where we've seen an RCWA guy versus a BXW guy. And hopefully one day we'll see I Sucks Dicks guys against other people around our alliance in the BXW ring. The BXW is like the arena. It is like the arena where you have all sorts of different promotions wrestling there. But it in itself is still the arena, and we ourselves are still BXW. But still, the point is made. I personally don't find myself being just a BXW wrestler. I'm a GBYWN wrestler. I'm a backyard wrestler. We are all backyard wrestlers. So let's enjoy backyard wrestling together. So if any bookers out there are listening, and you figure, oh, these two guys are traveling to my show, I'm just gonna have them wrestle each other. I'm gonna let them stay in their own little clique so we can have our clique and nobody gets hurt. Well, guess what? Those people are never coming back. Okay? Those people do not want to travel hours and hours on end in a car together just to wrestle each other. That doesn't happen. That does not happen. Because why would they even leave to do that if they could just wrestle in their own fed like that? The purpose of wrestling, the purpose of traveling is to wrestle other people you couldn't normally wrestle around you. And if you do not book them that way, they aren't gonna come. And when they don't come, they're gonna tell other people what happened, and those people aren't gonna come either. And next thing you know, you are on your own. And next thing you know, you're wrestling the exact same guy for the 12th time in the last 3 years. And nobody finds that fun anymore. When you are facing the same guy for the dozenth time, it suddenly doesn't become fun, it becomes work. And once backyard wrestling becomes work, it is no longer backyard wrestling, people. So think about that. As a wrestler, if you are wrestling the same person over and over again, if you're in the same feud over and over again, think about maybe I should travel. Think about maybe I should go to a different promotion, a different federation, whatever you want to call it. A different group of people, not to be better. Not to say, oh, I represent this fed and I'm coming to your town. Don't do that. Walk in and walk in and say, hey, I'm a backyard wrestler. You're a backyard wrestler. Let's backyard wrestle. If you want to bring a squad of your guys thinking that you need to do that in order to be noticed or to be respected, don't. Because then you won't be respected. You come as friends. You come as fellow backyard wrestlers who want to have a good time, and that is how you get respect around people. It is not about talent. I can name off a dozen people who have zero backyard wrestling talent, have zero wrestling talent, have absolutely no athletic ability, yet I consider really good friends, and I would love to wrestle every single day of the week. because it's fun to wrestle those people. Because they bring no drama, no baggage. They don't come with their own fed as a banner for showing how great they are, how they should be respected. They come in and they say, hey, let's wrestle. And guess what? Doing that is how you show off your banner and your federation. To come in and say, hey, I'm just like you guys, let's have a good time, makes those people believe that if they come to your fed, the exact same thing will happen. And guess what? Suddenly you have people from out of state coming to see you. And that's what you wanted, right? That's the whole point in the end. To get more people to have that fun. It's almost like reverse psychology when you think about it. And it goes back to the fact that we should know these things since we are backyard wrestling storytellers. So the next time you're booking a show, next time maybe you're bored on a weekend, the next time you realize you're wrestling the same person the 12th time in a row, think about it. Because only then would you get out of your repetition and your slum, and you will finally regain that freshness that backyard wrestling had for you when you first started. Maybe then you'll remember the fun of backyard wrestling. Because in the end, no matter what it is that makes backyard wrestling fun for you, if it isn't fun, you shouldn't be doing it. And that is a thing only a mark would complain about.
I got the biggest boner for science.
So ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of episode 4 of the GBYWN's audio broadcast. I'm sure a couple of people thought we wouldn't get past 1. I'm sure a lot of people thought we might not get past the first interview. But we are here on our second interview. Our 4th episode. Technically our 6th week in a row running. This is great. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I will add extra segments in the future. Please give me your suggestions. Tell me what you like, what you don't like. Let it be heard. And I will listen. Because if you're not listening, I'm just going to feel like an idiot for making this. So until next time, enjoy the sounds of backyard wrestling. I'm Rad Hazard, and this is the GBYWN Podcast.
Hello there, GBYWN, this is STV, Team Vengeance. Oh, no TKO, I'm here to win the finest tournament, beating Drake Genocide, Adam Bolt Burnett. Everyone's favorite saint is going with that No, doesn't matter. SV, finest tournament, that's it.